Hi guys, Quinn here from Work Gateways, and today we're going to uncover the awesome opportunities for architects and architectural technicians in the UK. It's just a wonderful opportunity, not just to get work, but to do great things with your career, but also get to travel London and Europe. And to do this, I wanted to bring on the best person that I could find that was in the industry in the UK that could actually shed as much light as we could on how to make things happen, how to really thrive. You're going to want to get a notepad out. Enjoy. Cheers. Well, g'day and welcome to Work Gateways. My name is Quinn, and today I'm super excited to welcome a guy that I've known for quite a few years actually. His name is Kieran Najada, and he's from a company called Adram. And the reason why I'm so excited is he's here to talk to us about a subject that he knows really well, and it's just great to have the opportunity to spend with him. So welcome, Kieran. Great to see you.
Hi there. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's good. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to tell a lot of people about exactly what's going on there, and you're exactly the right guy to do it.
Well, I hope so. I hope so.
No,
Anyway,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. But first, I was keen to just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Hi there. My name's Kieran Najada. I've been specialising in the recruitment of architectural people for 15 years now. Based in London, always based in London. I work for a company called Adrem, and we're quite specialist actually in terms of recruitment, in that we don't generalise. We just pretty much cover architecture and design, and that's pretty much it. So we think we know our area, and yeah, that's pretty much who we are really.
Yeah, and by specialising, I know that a lot of you guys are actually originally architects as well.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the company was established by architects. The premise being that it's an agency that is architects for architects, really. So it's quite good that a lot of people that work at Adrem are ex-industry, or people like myself who are more from a sort of business background but have been specialising in their sector, such as me doing architectural recruitment for as many years as I have. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and I know that the market's been fairly, let's say, dynamic over the last few years, and so I just wanted to find out a little bit about what's going on now, what's happening at the moment for architects or people in the architecture industry, really, because it's not just architects, is it? It's a number of people.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, this year, 2014, since the very beginning, since January, it's changed quite a lot, massively, I would say. Not to use a big word like that, without any foundation. But this year, it's really changed in a huge way.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've all experienced the tough few years through I won't say the word, but through the R word times. But it's been the same here in the UK, and I know it's been the same or similar in Australia and New Zealand and places like that, but it was probably felt a little bit later. But the last few years have been tough. This year's changed a lot, and it feels like it's business as usual, really. And it's pretty much at the moment the situation in London, because I can only really speak for London as that's pretty much the area I cover. There are more jobs than people, so at the moment we're taking on lots of new roles, but we're struggling to find the people to fill them. So yeah, so it's a good time if you're looking for work, and particularly if you're thinking of coming to the UK, in particular London, where it's all happening here. Yeah, it's a good time to come, and that's part of the reason why Quinn and I have sort of got in touch, really, to see if we can do something about that, really, because we need people. And before the recession, years and years ago, I'm going back pre 2007, there was a huge market for people coming from different parts of the world, and in particular, we had a lot of success placing people from Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, and that seems to be the way it's going again now after a few years of it being a bit quiet on that front. This year, it's back to sort of how it used to be. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, exciting times for people coming to the UK and to London.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I remember what it was like, and it's just so wonderful to see it back that way again, And I wonder if you could comment a little bit about the types of people that you're seeing where the opportunities are.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, the architecture covers a whole range of different types of people, but we're placing anybody from sort of part one, part two assistant, up to senior qualified architects. Within that we cover projects, job running architects or design architects. Also, architects who specialise on big projects, just looking at particular packages. And also lots of architects who work on smaller high-end residential type projects, anything like that. And also on the technical front, we cover roles for junior technicians up to senior technicians. So pretty much everything you can think of, or every type of job title that you'll find within an architectural office, that's what we cover.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so I'm just really keen to find out a little bit more, Kieran, with regards to the scope of the projects. I know in the past, for an Aussie or Kiwi or somebody from overseas, the opportunity is great to get UK experience on your CV, which is obviously going to help you hugely when you go back home. And I think part of that's the types of projects are a little bit different. You get exposed to different things, and I just wanted to, find out from you a little bit about the types of projects that are currently getting done.
Okay, sure. Well, I think probably from what I can gather, the main difference between working here and working perhaps back in somewhere like New Zealand or somewhere like that is that a lot of the big international offices here in London tend to have quite an international scope. So although they're in London, a lot of the big boys do quite a lot of work in the Middle East and the Far East. And the size of the projects in these areas are absolutely enormous, bigger than anywhere else in the world, really, multi-million pound projects. So a lot of the big sort of well-known London offices, you can get exposed to, pretty highly regarded international projects that are going to be landmark schemes all around the world. So that's quite good, I think. You can get some amazing experience like that. But also, if that's not what somebody's wanting to do, there's a lot of sort of really cool small to medium sized offices doing some really great stuff in the UK. There's a lot of great architecture going on in the UK at the moment, and a lot of the best architects in the world at the moment are considered to be British as well. So you can get exposure to working with these types of offices and on some really interesting and quirky schemes at the moment. So it's quite adventurous here at the moment, and I think you get some really sort of unique experience by coming here to London at the moment.
Yeah, I love that. The energy in London of the projects that you can get exposed to is amazing. So in terms of locations, I know you mentioned London is where you recruit for. Is that do you recruit for the UK as a whole, or is it very London focused in terms of where the architecture firms are actually located?
Yeah, we do cover the UK as a whole, but our main focus, we're based in central London, so right. Most of our coverage is central London, actually. So a lot of since the last few years, the biggest, buzziest part of the UK is London. Outside of London, it's still sort of, it's okay, but it's not probably as exciting or the same anywhere else, I would say, at the moment. So if you were thinking of coming to the UK and coming all this way, then I'd definitely say London should be where you ought to be based.
For most people, that's probably the place of choice anyway, so it's not going to be a problem there. And are they based anywhere in particular in London, or sort of all over?
All over, actually. London's really spread out, so and you do have certain pockets of London where you have a high concentration of architectural practices. For example, a place called Clerkenwell, which apparently has the highest concentration of architectural practices within a square mile than anywhere else in the world, by all accounts. So don't quote me, but this is what I understand. But in terms of architectural offices, there's lots of cool offices all over London, not just in the West End or the city, but also on the outskirts of London as well. You've got some really interesting practices. So yeah, all over really. So in terms of where someone should base themselves, anywhere within zones 1 to 4, and you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, and I always say to candidates when they're coming over from the UK is just, if you can, get some temporary place to live before you, so you get something a bit more settled. Just because one end of London to the other can take you a little bit. On the other hand, you could potentially be a couple of tube stops away from your work. Or
that's it. It can take an hour or so sometimes to get from one part of London, one end of London to the other end. So it's a vast city, and I think most of the guys that I experience who arrive here, they always have friends that they can stay with and just put them up just for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because it really will only, it's a matter of weeks rather than months that they'll find a job. Normally within the first couple of weeks they should be okay, and from there, like you say, you can then sort of choose an area that's not too far away and base yourself not too far from work really. But generally speaking, if you're travelling an hour on the tube to get to work, that's not a problem. And in London, people here consider that to be an okay commute, really. But
yeah, absolutely. And so, in terms of getting a job, you mentioned that you're talking weeks, and I imagine even for in terms of interviews, you're probably able to get interviews within a matter of days.
It varies. It varies, but generally, within sort of a few days, couple of weeks, most people we find are sorted. Yeah. So if you give yourself sort of, a couple of weeks to get sorted, you should be fine. But normally, quite often, we can set up interviews before people arrive. In some cases. And then with other cases, it's once they get here and we meet them, and then within a couple of days we can normally have interviews happening. So most people are sorted within a pretty small space of time normally. So obviously there's the odd exception. Sometimes it might take a couple of weeks, but not normally much longer than that.
Yeah, great. And so you raise a really good point in terms of... actually, you raise a couple of points that I wanted to ask, but in terms of, I want to find out about earnings, and I also want to find out about what somebody needs to do before they arrive. What's the best thing they could? So let's start there. What's the best thing that they could do in terms of getting the ball rolling with yourselves before they arrive?
So the first thing to do is have the work. If you're not on an ancestral or European passport, if you're not on a European passport, then you need to look at either an ancestral visa or a 2-year working holiday visa. I think they're called now youth mobility visas, which allow you to work for the full 2 years. I say I think because every few months they changed the name of it, but at the moment it's the 2-year
Tier 5, yeah.
youth mobility visa. So have that in place, and also have a time frame in mind, so a date of when you're arriving here. And then all we need to know is a few weeks in advance of the date of your arrival, make contact, and we get the ball rolling a few weeks before, really. But so long as you can work here legally and you sort that side of things out, and you have a date of your arrival, that's all we need, and we can make contact from there and get things going, really, so that it's pain-free upon your arrival.
Fantastic. And would you be able to give feedback to them before they arrive, or is that something that you normally do?
Yeah, definitely. We regularly in touch with people before they arrive. Yesterday, I interviewed a young chap from New Zealand who's a graduate architect. So here he'd be called an architectural assistant or equivalent to a Part 2 architectural assistant. And anybody that wants to get in touch with me, I can explain how all that works as well. But yeah, I was in touch with him 2 weeks before he arrived, and then he arrived a couple of days ago, and we met yesterday, and we've got interviews happening for him. So yeah, the sooner you can get in contact with me before you arrive, the better.
Yeah, that's exactly what I say. Good.
But if you have plans to, some people have plans, you might want to hit Europe and look at a few places. That's fine as well, and we can meet after your arrival, whatever's best. But if you wanted to get work more quickly, then if we're in touch before you arrive, then that's always better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they'd be mad not to go to Europe, wouldn't they?
Exactly. So you don't want to, you don't want to necessarily get here and go straight into a job, So
get into a job and then. That brings me to another interesting point with contract work. I know, so a lot of Aussies and Kiwis and other people from overseas on the right visas, as you mentioned, they might want to work for a few months here on a certain project and a few months and then go traveling. Is that possible, or is it a permanent market? A lot of people have permanent jobs, but then they go to the UK and they discover this whole contract market.
Yeah, there's both. There's two lines you could pursue. One is the permanent route, and normally that's better suited to people who are on an ancestral visa or have an EU passport. If you have a 2-year working visa, then contract might be the better thing to consider. Although that's not to say that you couldn't get a permanent job with a 2-year visa, because you can. It is doable. But in terms of work, there's permanent work, or a lot of people get here and they might do 6 months at one company. Then they may go island hopping in Greece for a month, and then come back, and then we'll get them another job for another 6 months. So we have people like that where we get them regular contracts in between them going exploring various parts of Europe. Or some people want to settle here, and we have some people who come here and want to get settled in a permanent job, and that happens too. So depending on your circumstances and what's important to you, they're all the options are there.
And also, I guess, depends on how in demand you are, and that's where somebody like yourself can a recruitment agency can really help out with that. Is, based on your experience and what's going on in the market, you can, join, and what you want,
Yeah, exactly. So, it's individual, and everybody's individual, and we'll look at, that with everybody, and then we'll advise from there, the different options available to you. And what might suit you better, and so that's sort of something we're really experienced in, and we can advise on that accordingly.
No, it's a really big dynamic market that I think people are just not used to. If you're working at home in your little hometown, or even a large town in Australia, for example, it's quite different. I mean, you're talking about the population of London is almost well, Greater London is almost the population of Australia. So if you put all of
Yeah.
those capital cities together, you know, that's the size of it. And then you add in all that European and the Middle East market that you're talking about. You know, so we're talking about extremely dynamic market, and to make your way through that, I know a recruitment, you know, agency can help an enormous amount in getting that going. And I just, you know, I wanted to get that across to people because they're just not used to agencies. You probably deal with them every day.
Yeah, exactly, and it's probably quite a daunting
it is
position to a lot of people. So it's something we can sort of, you know, we help with everything in terms of the sort of job market, career market. So we'll give advice on CVs, because the CVs here, the way you should set them up is often quite different to how you may be doing it back home. So we know sort of we've got all the sort of local market knowledge here in terms of the best way to put your CV together, portfolio together. We also have an intimate knowledge of all the architectural practices here in London because as an agency, Adrem, we've been here for 30 years in London, and during that time we cover pretty much every company that you've heard of and a lot more that you won't have heard of, and we know their likes and their dislikes as well. So in terms of guiding you through all of that, that's something we can do as well. And we like to work closely with people and find out what they really want as well, rather than just, you know, put a bum on a seat. We want to hopefully get you something that you're keen to do and that's going to keep you happy while you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously, you know, if that person's happy, then the clients, the people that they're working for, are happy, and it works out well. So I know, you know, a lot of people will want to know how much they're earning, and I really encourage people to look at the experience, and I'm not saying that you get paid less, but to look at the experience you're going to get and look at the bigger picture of what you want out of life, because I think that's far more important than the amounts. But I want to put you on the spot here a little bit. And, what do they make? What does an architect make? You know, what does one of these young architects make? And
in most cases, people that arrive here can probably expect to earn a little bit less than they're earning back home to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I'm basing that on the amount of people I've worked with who've arrived here from Australia and New Zealand. Normally there's a little bit of difference, not a huge difference, but often the salaries here, the initial starting salary might be a bit lower than they've been experiencing at home. Yeah. Once they've got their foot in the door somewhere, then we find that can change over a period of a few months. And once a company knows you and trusts you and feels that you understand the regulations here, the building regulations here well enough, then you'll find that salaries will go up in line with the sort of salaries that people would expect. So, but it's hard to sort of put a number on it, but you know, for example, for an architectural assistant, so maybe someone who's not qualified, so that can range from up to about 30,000, I would say, typically. For a qualified project architect, maybe you're qualified in Australia or New Zealand and you've been running projects of a reasonable size, then you could be expecting to earn around 35 to 40,000 as a starting salary. Mm-hmm. And then for a senior, and that's not a senior, that's more sort of project architect, intermediate level, maybe you've been qualified for 2 or 3 years. And then for a senior qualified architect, maybe 5 to 10 years plus post-qualification, then, you know, anywhere probably around about 50,000 a year. And for a senior architectural technician, just arrived here, maybe about 40,000. And for a more intermediate technician, maybe around about 30,000. So those figures are sort of a rough idea, and it depends on person to person. And in terms of hourly rates, typically speaking, for an architectural assistant, anywhere from about 15 to 18 pounds an hour, probably. But if you've got, if you're an architectural assistant with a lot of experience and you've got good technical skills, maybe about 20 pounds an hour. And then qualified job running architects, probably on average about 25 pounds an hour. So yeah, so it can, you know, it can vary from company to company and project to project and role to role. There's no set rule really.
Yeah, I understand that, and it's a really tough question to answer because you really have to, you know, somebody has to really, you have to have a CV in front of you and to be able to advise on what's happening.
Yeah,
you know, I understand that. And also, you raise a really good point just about getting that initial UK experience. Somebody with just even a smidgen of UK experience on their CV compared to somebody who's just arrived off the boat it's night and day in terms of what you can potentially earn. Is that still the case?
No, I wouldn't say so. Companies will look at the you know, the level of the person, and also the London market is very warm to people coming from all over the world. It's a hugely multicultural city.
Yeah.
A third of people that live in London were actually born outside of the UK. A third. So you know, it's really open-minded in terms of where you're coming from. And actually, we find salaries, you know, you'll be paid commensurate to the level you're at, and not necessarily because you haven't got UK experience. So there may be a little bit of a sort of get your foot in the door kind of rate initially, but not always. You know, it just depends on the urgency of the role and how suitable you are. But we find that if you've got years and years of UK experience and you're a senior project architect, then that would be different to someone who's a senior project architect who's just arrived from another country. Then there probably would be a reasonable difference in salary. But for anyone sort of at the midway to senior technician level or architectural assistant or recently qualified architect level, you'll find that you'll be pretty comparable with anybody here who's got UK experience as well.
Yeah, fantastic. That's probably a good reflection of how sophisticated the market's become. Like they're really open to just getting the best people for the job and getting the job done, right? So it's a good opportunity. Yeah, okay, that's terrific. Is there anything else before we wrap up here? I feel like we've got a really good snapshot now of what's required in terms of getting the ball rolling before somebody arrives, where the opportunities are, the types of projects people are involved with. It just all sounds really good to me, to be honest with you. But obviously, some candidates stand out from other candidates that apply through your agency, and I just sort of wanted to get your thoughts on what really pops out, for you. What makes it work?
I think anybody with at least, say at least 12 months experience and above in your country, you haven't got an awful lot to worry about coming here. I would say if you're at the very early stages in your career and you've just graduated and you haven't really got any work experience, in the city or country that you live, get some experience back home first before you come here. But even if it's just 6 months to 12 months experience, then it makes all the difference. And providing you've got that behind you before you get here, and everything's in place, then we should have a lot that we can do for you. Fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah, look, it's been great to have you on the show and just to really get your insight. And I'm excited for people to see this and to hear this and really get to the UK. I mean, it certainly changed my life for the better after I went. So I highly encourage other people to go. And yeah, really, once again, appreciate your time, Kieran. Thank you so much. I know you've come across really well, and as somebody I know you help people individually, so I hope people I'm sure they can see that. So yeah, thanks again, and yeah, look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, nice to see you again, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, great. Cheers, Kieran. Thanks.
Great, thanks.